not an election. It was a premeditated power grab and a military coup against the sovereignty of the Ugandan people, superintended for the benefit of dictator Yoweri Museveni, who grabbed power by the gun and so despises democracy that he once famously stated that he cannot be removed by a mere piece of paper. On January 15th, he transformed disdain for the people's will, as spelt out in the Ugandan constitution, into a criminal enterprise by using the ballot as a smokescreen to continue his brutal military occupation and family cabal. The 71.61% algorithm, a manufactured fiction. The announced results are the product of centralized forgery. We present the following evidence of a predetermined outcome. The impossible register. The Electoral Commission, Ensi, inflated the National Voter Register to 21.6 million voters to match the National Resistant Movement's NRM fabrications, with the ruling party having claimed earlier that it had a membership of 20.1 million. By this claim, the NRM membership register grew by over 100% from the 8 million members that were known as of the 2021 elections. This kind of growth is not only statistically impossible, but also grossly fraudulent. Independents by civil society groups and political parties confirm that the Electoral Commission register is poisoned with duplicates, some people appearing over 50 times to match up with the NRM register fraud. In other cases, biodata of deceased persons, minors, and ghosts, people totally unknown, were identified. The preset target. After shifting his narrative in late 2025 to claim 2.7 million votes were stolen from him, Museveni, in 2021, Museveni deployed an algorithm designed to hit a 70+% threshold. This was a coronation by calculation, not a count. In early 2025, Museveni claimed that Bobi Wine had robbed him of 1 million votes in the 2021 election. At the peak of the campaigns in November 2025, he increased his claim to 2.7 million votes. In 2021, Yoweri Museveni claimed 6,042,898, while Bobi Wine was given 3,631,437 votes was given. Here, Museveni gave himself a margin of 2.4 million votes. In the 2026 elections, Yoweri Museveni claimed 7,946,772 votes against Bobi Wine's 2,741,238 votes. The margin this time around is 5.2 million votes. The difference between the two margins of 2.4 million in 2021 and 5.2 million in 2026 is 2.7 million, the exact figure which Museveni says he was robbed of in the last elections. This can only be possible by a special algorithm of a predetermined result. A chorus of threats. And then go next. From General Muhoozi Kainerugaba's tweets vowing to crush opposition, to the parliamentary rhetoric of his Patriotic League of Uganda PLU group, members like David Kabanda, Minister Balam Barugahara, and NRM regime leaders like Speaker Anita Among and Deputy Speaker Thomas Tayebwa, among others, the regime said months ago that the result was decided before the first vote was cast, similar to previous and regional elections.
My name is Irene Soila from the Kenya Human Rights Commission. I proceed from where Monasi has left. Totalitarian tactics, darkness and blood, digital darkness. The nationwide internet shutdown was a strategic blackout to facilitate industrial-scale ballot stuffing in favor of Museveni, enforced disappearances, arbitrary arrests, and detentions of the citizenry, as well as the opposition supporters and leaders. We have overwhelming evidence of Electoral Commission, EC officials, security forces, and the Ghetto Brigade militia critiquing ballots in favor of Museveni while the world was blinded. Systemic terror at polling centers and the decapitation of oversight. The sanctity of the ballot box was desecrated through a coordinated campaign of state-sponsored terror aimed at opposing agents and independent observers. In a blatant display of electoral fraud, agents of the National Unity Platform, NUP, were systematically chased away from polling stations prior to voting or abducted immediately after to prevent them from witnessing the tallying process. We condemn the lawless falsification of declaration of results forms and the only primary evidence of the people's will, which were violently stolen from agents by security operatives. The intimidation extended to the voters themselves. In districts like Mitiana and Butambala, citizens were scattered from their designated polling stations by force to facilitate full-scale daylight ballot stuffing by placing Robert Changulai, Bobby Wine under house arrest and abducting key supervisors like NUP Electoral Commission Chair John Sebufu and other NUP coordinators and vice presidents. The regime ensured that the counting process was a one-sided, fraudulent exercise conducted in total darkness. The unprecedented and illegal militarization of the democratic process. We witnessed a chilling transition from a civilian election to a total military occupation, masterminded by a family cabal. The involvement of the Ugandan People's Defense Forces, UPDF, and special security units were beyond security and moved into active criminal interference, violating both Ugandan and international human rights laws. This militarization was characterized by a wave of high-profile arrests and enforced disappearances, including the arrest of NUP Vice President, Honorable Lina Zedriga, from her home in Gayaza, the abduction of Honorable Bright Muhuza, Barara South candidate, and Jacqueline Tukamushabe. The January 15, 2026 exercise was not an election. It was a military operation designed to bypass the biometric voter verification kits, which were deliberately sabotaged despite costing billions to allow the Electoral Commission to announce results at the National Tallying Center that bore no resemblance of the actual declaration of results forms from the ground. The high cost of the ballot. This electoral coup is stained by the blood of over 50 citizens. We specifically condemn the January 16 massacre of 10 people murdered during a military raid on the home of NUP Vice President, Honorable Mwanga Kivumbi, in Butambala, and many others that lost their lives across the country, bringing to the total to almost 50 out of this election so far, while over 1,000 Ugandans either illegally deported or missing as a result of enforced disappearances. The Ghetto Brigade militia. This militia group, whose official name is Ghetto Structures, reports to Museveni as their commander-in-chief. The direct leaders of these illegal outfits are Major Emmanuel Kutesa and Chris Damulira. On several occasions, they beat up and robbed people who did not support Museveni or who carried Ugandan flags as a symbol of patriotism and resistance against autocratic rule. They also stole declaration of results, forms, and terrorized voters. The modus operandi was akin to the State Research Bureau under dictator Idi Amin, notorious for brutal repressions.
Thank you. I'm Cornelius Oduor, the Deputy Executive Director, Kenya Human Rights Commission. We take note of the regional complicity, and we are calling out the African Union and the East African community. A shameful betrayal of the African Charter on democracy, elections and governance. To the African Union Commission, your January 17th statement congratulating Yoweri Museveni just premature. It is a profound betrayal of the African Charter on democracy, elections and governance. By endorsing a declared result of 71.61%, while the nation was plunged into a total digital blackout, and Robert Kangulani, Bobby Wine's family, remained under illegal house arrest, the EU has signaled that it values the survival of autocrats over the lives of African citizens. You have chosen to ignore the documented abduction of NUP leaders, the nomination of candidates, the torture of activists, and the killing of citizens, effectively endorsing a crime scene as a democratic exercise. The AU's complacency today sets a dangerous precedent, suggesting that the Africa we want is one where sovereignty is stolen at the barrel of a gun, while continental body looks the other way. To the East African community, complicity in the whitewashing of terror. To the East African Community Election Observation Mission, we condemn your utter failure to uphold the values of the East African Community Treaty. Your preliminary findings are a sanitized whitewashing of a military occupation that bears no resemblance to the terror witnessed on the ground. By failing to report the brutal late-night raid and massacre in Butambala, the disappearance of local observers, and the blatant daylight ballot stuffing in locations like Mitiana, you have abandoned your mandate as a regional guardian of democracy. We demand an immediate retraction of your report. The people of East Africa deserve a community that stands for truth, not one that serves as a public relations firm for family cabal.
So I am Cyprian Nyamwamu, the convener of Kenya Bora Tuitakayo, and I will read the last part on the urgent call to action demanding justice and restoration. And we are doing this as the Pan-African Coalition. We demand an immediate end to the state's war against its citizens and their defenders in Uganda. To the ruling Museveni family and the NRM regime, we demand for the release of all political prisoners. And this we demand the immediate and unconditional release of all the prisoners, activists and abductees. Political detainees on the length remands must be brought to court or unconditionally released. The state must seize the illegal or arbitrary detention of opposition leaders and their supporters. We call for the reinstatement of all NGOs and the stopping of harassment of the media. We demand the immediate retraction of all the illegal suspensions of NGOs, tens of them actually, targeted by the NGO Bureau in Uganda, the weaponization of regulatory bodies to decapitate civil society oversight must end now. We also demand an immediate halt to the harassment, surveillance, and intimidation of CSOs, activists, the media, and the political opposition. The press must be allowed to report without the threat of closure or physical violence. The Ghetto Brigade Militia. We demand the immediate disbandment of the Ghetto Brigade and the arrest of its leaders, such as Army officers Major Emmanuel Kutesa and increase. To the international community, solidarity without sanctions is merely complicity. We demand the immediate imposition of global travel bans and asset freezes against the architects of this electoral fraud and the heads of the security agencies overseeing this state-sponsored repression, including all the members of the Museveni family cabal, who are spread all over the world, and they are all known. The world must stop subsidizing a dictatorship that uses the tools of democracy to dismantle it and to mock it, actually. To our comrades and compatriots, the people of Uganda, we today, as the Pan-African group, urge you not to lose heart in your struggle for freedom, dignity, and progress. Your resolve to break free from decades of military dictatorship and family rule is just and necessary, and you are at the dawn of breaking through. The sovereignty of Uganda belongs to its citizens, not to a cabal. Stay steadfast in your pursuit of a nation governed by the will of the people rather than the power of the gun. To our fellow Africans, Ugandans, not the Museveni family's military regime, need your urgent support in this dark hour for continental democracy. We call on you to stand with the Ugandan people in their continued push for liberty, dignity, and a system of governance underpinned by the rule of law. African problems require African solidarity that prioritizes the people over the protection of dictators. We must recognize that the erosion of democracy in one nation threatens us all. If we do not act now, we are the next victims. Dictators collaborate to refine their methods of repression. Africans must also join hands to resist and dismantle autocracy across our borders. The fight for freedom in Kampala is a fight for the future of our continent, and you know that Tanzania is unfinished business. A few months ago we were here talking about Tanzania. It is unfinished business, and the solidarity has to continue to strengthen for the sake of liberating all of Africa. In conclusion, the regime, the Museveni family military regime, believes that hacking the internet, arresting civic actors, and deploying a militarized electoral coup against the citizens of Uganda, they can control the narrative. They are wrong. You cannot hide the heartbeat of a nation that has decided to be free like Uganda. The struggle for the January victory has only just begun. Whether they detain opposition leaders or they abduct more of them, the people shall win, because a people united can never be defeated. Thank you very much.